Welcome to Season 2 of Garth and Sue Talk, a series by Psych Sessions where we bring up a topic of conversation and then we just riff. These are the water cooler conversations that you have with colleagues in your department. These are the chats you might have at the bar after a good day at a teaching conference. So please, pull up a seat as we talk about teaching. All right, Sue, we are going to talk about teaching at a community college today. Quick math, how long have you been teaching at a community college?
I taught my first class at a community college in 1992.
1992. So you're nearing 3 decades here.
I feel like I'm nearing 3 decades. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. We were both just talking about how tired we are right now. I don't know when this will come out, but at this point, we are very tired in the quarter. And maybe we'll talk about being tired sometime.
That's what people want to hear. They want to hear us talk about being exhausted.
I'm sure. Yeah, well, we can validate them real quick. Yes, we're all tired. It's, we're 2/3 of the way through the term and we're tired. So, and I've been at a community college. I guess maybe I'll start here, which is I started actually at a junior college in Fresno, California, which I don't know that I've heard about up here. We have technical colleges. There's community colleges. Do you have any experience with junior colleges?
A lot of what are now community colleges were once called junior colleges, and my understanding is that a lot of them have converted to community colleges.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I found myself just in that sort of 2-year world from the very beginning. And so, we might be able to talk with some experience and expertise on community colleges. We realize that our 4-year, there may be a disconnect because we don't have that 4-year kind of experience, but that's how we're talking about.
Hold on a second.
Oh, do you?
Some of us have 4-year teaching experience.
And I suppose I do too as an adjunct, but go ahead. You talk to me about it.
I did as an adjunct. So when I taught at the University of Kansas as a grad student.
That's right.
And then my part-time gig. So after I got my master's degree, my part-time teaching gigs, I had 2 for a couple years. One was Johnson County Community College, just outside of Kansas City, and the other was Washburn University, a private university in Topeka, Kansas.
Okay. All right. So, and I'm feeling a little silly that I even forgot that I had done this as well. So, Seattle University, I did adjunct work there for a number of years. And then the other places I worked, if we're just listing them, San Joaquin Valley College, which was a junior college in Fresno, California, and then Highline, and then now Cascadia. So, any other places you worked other than what you've just listed?
New Mexico State University, Alamogordo branch.
And that was a community college?
It's a 2-year college.
2-year college.
So technically a community college. New Mexico State University has a handful of 2-year branches throughout the state. And the one I was at was in Alamogordo. So a lot of students would do their first 2 years there, and then they would either move to Las Cruces to the main campus, or they would commute for the 4-year degree.
Yeah. Well, and, where you're at right now is really unique as a community college you were one of the most diverse community colleges, I think, in the nation at Highline College, at least 10 years ago it was. I'm sure it's probably quite diverse still, right? So
still, yep.
Yeah. And so my institution is not very diverse, not like yours. And but would you say community colleges tend to have more diversity, and has that always been the case in your experience?
Well, diversity is, of course, a hard term to define. So we could talk about ethnic and cultural diversity. of which we have quite a bit. And when I mention that, people always ask, well, which is the dominant group? And there just is not one. That we have a lot of African American students. We have a lot of Latino students, Latinx students for the people who lean that direction. We have a lot of Asian students. We've got, even among our Caucasian students, we have students from all over the world. So we have a lot of students from Russia and Ukraine, for instance. And then, of course, there's the age diversity. That in Washington State, we have a dual enrollment program called Running Start. So our classes can have students that are 15 or 16 years old. The students can be 15 or 16 years old. And of course, our modal age is probably somewhere in the mid-20s. And I've had students in their 70s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you like? I mean, I assume you wouldn't have stayed in the community college system as long as you have if you didn't like something about the community college system. So, and maybe I'll just say that when I started teaching, I don't know that I understood. I was a first generation college student. I don't think I had a lot of, there wasn't a lot of knowledge passed down to me about, what a good education looks like, what a that Harvard or some of these prestigious schools, you still get a bachelor's degree from them as you would from kind of your local institution. In Canada, people don't move away generally to go to university and get those degrees. And so there was a lot I didn't understand. I never grew up with a 2-year college model where I was from. And so what I have learned about the community college system is really what I've kind of learned just on the job. And so I've been in this bubble now for so long that it's only when I talk to somebody from a 4-year institution that I pick up on, oh, that's really different than what we do things. So than the way we do things. And so I don't know how much it just feels normal to me that is actually quite unique about community colleges and is really some of the great aspects of community college education. So I don't know if any of that resonates with you, but I think the question that I asked you and then went away from was what do you like about community colleges?
Well, I want to preface that by saying that when I was a graduate student and I had my teaching assistantship and I was teaching these classes, I taught social and I taught intro, and it did absolutely nothing for me. The student population was largely white, largely middle class, and all of them were 18 to 20 years old. Mm-hmm. And it did absolutely nothing. I mean, literally, it did nothing for me. And so I wasn't like, woohoo, I want to do this teaching thing. No, that's not what happened at all. What happened was, okay, I finished my master's degree here in my PhD program. I need a break. So how about I take a year off? It was intended to be a year off, 1 year, 30 years, whatever. And I got a job teaching at Johnson County Community College. And the guy who hired me, I think he was largely excited that he was able to hire somebody who didn't have a degree in counseling or clinical. Nothing against counseling and clinical, but there are a lot of you. Yeah, mm-hmm. Well, I'm some of my best friends. So, so I came out of a social psych program, and he hired me. And I remember that first day I walked into class. It was a night class. And I walk in, and here is this room filled with people of different races and ethnicities and ages. Nothing like what I currently have in my institution, but way more than what I was seeing at the university. And I completely fell in love with it. I'm like, okay, this is going to be fun, because not only do I get to share what it is that I know, but I'm going to learn some stuff here in the process. And I had come from this mentality of the professor stands up there and professes. And here I am in my mid-20s. I've got students who are in their 30s and 40s sitting in the classroom with all of these life experiences. And I knew that approach to teaching was not going to work. So I very quickly pivoted. In my mind, it's very quick. I don't know. It might have been months, but I eventually came around to actually saying to students, look, I know the psychology. I know the research. You all have the life experiences, so let's put them together and see what happens. And I've learned so much from those students, and I continue to learn so much from my students. So that's probably the biggest thing that I get out of teaching in a community college is just, for me, it is the sheer diversity of experiences, and it's an opportunity for me to learn something new every day.
Yeah, I remember that story now that you're sharing it again, and it is true that, like, I definitely have 15-year-old students right now, and a year ago I had a woman in her mid-70s who was auditing my class, and those are very, very interesting experiences. I also see, and it's hard to know what is specific to our particular colleges and what is just unique about community colleges, but that word community has been removed from colleges as we've kind of picked up these 4-year degrees. I think I'm sure there's more to it than that, but you guys are offering some 4-year degrees. We are as well. And so that community piece gets left out. I know that there are people who fight for that to be kept in that, in the name community or whatever that institution is. Where do you see the kind of the intersection of community within the community college, and how have you thought about that?
Well, community to me has denoted anybody can come. So unlike a number of 4 years, they have, I'm blanking on what term they used for it. See how long I've been out of 4-year schools, but it's limited admissions. Mm-hmm. So you have to have certain grades in order to get in, or a certain test score to get in. And that's just not the case in community colleges. So if you want to come, you are more than welcome. A lot of community colleges are also commuter campuses. So it really is drawing from people in the community, and there are pluses and minuses to that. There are actually a number of challenges associated with that. Often the students will come to campus. Back when we actually went to campus, in pre-pandemic times, and students would take the class and then they would go home. That there wasn't necessarily a culture of, I'm a college student at this campus. And trying to do student clubs at a community college is often very difficult because students have so many other responsibilities that having time to just hang out on campus and participate in a club activity is just unheard of. So definitely some challenges there. And then, of course, what comes with that is the less connected a student is to a particular college, the harder it is to retain them.
So there is an article that's coming to mind that I read a number of years ago, and I won't be able to cite it, but it did talk about how students do better when they are involved on campus. And so that is a unique challenge to our students. And I know that you'll be able to you'll probably agree with this, that our students are doing a whole lot outside of because of the nature of living in the community. They're doing a whole lot outside. So their existing social lives are outside of the college campus generally, at least to some extent. I have students who are working multiple jobs. We have students who are parents and they have families and even are, maybe even careers and are coming to the college. So we get this diversity not only with who our students are, but with what they with what what their purpose is at the college. They're not all going for degrees, and they're not all transferring either. And so it is this really rich, diverse experience. Is that your experience as well?
Absolutely. And to add to some of the challenges our students are facing is that some of our students are homeless. And if they're lucky, they're living in a car or they're couch surfing. Other students are battling addiction. They might be in recovery. And as part of that, they want to change their lives. So they're going to school, or maybe they're going back to school. So they're back to the community college. For some of our students, they are first generation college students like you and I. And I've had occasion to have conversations in class with students about this, where their family and friends are supportive in words, in saying, yeah, I absolutely go to school by all means. But when it comes to them actually being in school and having homework to do and stuff to read and tests to prepare for, then family and friends become less supportive. That they start to wonder, what, you care way more about that than you do about me? I haven't seen you in a week and a half. Come on. Come party with us.
That's really interesting. I remember a student that I had, and I'm going to guess that she came from a background where she told me family is everything. Family is super important. And eventually she disclosed to me that I'm not getting my work done because my family has these expectations that family comes first. So it wasn't even her desire. Now we're, the education that this student is getting is actually becoming problematic in the family. And she's getting pressure not to participate in that way. So yeah, our students they're dealing with a lot.
And in contrast, if that student had gone off to college, say 5 hours away on the other side of the state of Washington, there'd be at least a little bit of a buffer. So there would still be the text messages and the phone calls to contend with, but those are a little easier to manage than if the person is standing in the next room.
Yeah. Yep. Or you're, doing childcare for your younger siblings or something like that, which often happens. It's amazing to me that our students do as well as they do with everything that's going on. And I know that you and I have talked about having, whatever this means, rigorous courses, like courses that mean something, where there are outcomes that we definitely want our students to know, and we're going to do our best to make sure that they work hard, because learning is hard to do those things. We talk about 15 hours. It seems to me that our students are not great at time management. And I wonder if this is unique to community. Well, I know it's not unique to college students or to community college students. It's probably a lot broader, but the demands that are on community college students make this whole time management thing even more challenging because of all the demands. Yeah. Because they're not away. They're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to quickly toss in here. You mentioned 15 hours per week, and I just wanted to let everyone know that that's because you and I are on the quarter system. So
that's right.
Our classes are meeting 5 hours a week, so therefore 10 hours on top of that. So for all of you that are on the semester systems, it's 9 hours a week.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We're not mean.
Right. Well, we're not mean in that way.
We're not mean in that way. Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting too. That's got it. I mean, we maybe should talk about the quarter system sometime and do a little research into why it is that we are on this quarter system versus semesters. But I, for one, like it. And I think my students do actually, because it's over so quickly. It's like the pain just doesn't last that long ever.
Right. Yes. But on the downside, if you're really enjoying a course, both as instructor and student, it's a little sorry to see it go.
Yeah.
But the whole quarter system versus semester system, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. Well, to kind of finish up this conversation, when you have students who are coming from the community and attending college, I do think it offers us some opportunities that, as far as assignments at my institution, we do a lot of service learning, and I know that four-year institutions do this as well. But we do a lot of service learning. But these are when I send my students out into the community to do something with the community or for the community, they're actually serving their neighbors. They're actually serving the businesses and working alongside in the community that they will most likely end up in someday as well. So I think a good community college has its kind of roots really firmly within the community and is not sending people hundreds of miles away, but is really training up people who will eventually serve that community. So that's a final thought I have. Anything else stick out to you about community colleges? I know that we don't lose a lot of faculty who are at community colleges who I can't think of anyone right now who has said this is not for me. I'm going to go off to the four-year school instead. It seems to be a pretty great place for people to work.
Teaching is the emphasis. So if what you really enjoy doing is teaching, and if you maybe want to do a little research on the side, kind of on your own time, that's fine. No one's going to object to that, but it's not part of the tenure process. It really is all about teaching. The class sizes are humane. And you just can't beat the student population. That I just think about so many of the students that I've had, so many veterans and all of the experiences that they've had, and thinking about some of my students who were recently released from serving years in prison and coming back to school, and with a renewed purpose. I've had students who were pretty young when they took classes and they didn't do well, and 10 years later, they're back and they say, I was here 10 years ago. I wasn't ready. And now I am. And their grades bear it out. And it's an amazing thing to see. And it makes it a whole lot easier when you see that student who's failing because just where they are in their life for whatever reason, this is just not where they should be. And then years later, being able to think years later, you're going to come back and we're going to do this differently.
Yes, I've heard you talk about that before. And one of the things I appreciate about you is that you look at those failing students and I know that it doesn't make you happy to see students failing, but I do like this hope that you carry with you that and you really do give the responsibility to the student. You give them I think you maybe have said it something like this, give them the right to not pass your course, to make those decisions, because those students do come back. And those are, I would agree, some of the best students that I have ever had are students who dabbled in college years earlier, or who are they've been working a blue collar job and now want to go, they're 40 years old and they want to change careers. Those are really serious students and they are a lot of fun to teach for sure.
And those are the ones who have no trouble with time management.
That's true. It's true.
The students I have who are the best at time management are typically mothers with young children.
Yeah.
Especially single mothers with young children. I'm absolutely certain that single fathers with young children can do it too, but I just have so many fewer single fathers than I do single mothers. But they're juggling so much that they have to have everything down on a calendar. And that ends up becoming the trick. That's the key to time management, is you just got to carve out time on your calendar and stick to it.
Well, and think about the skills. We talk a lot about psychology in terms of, or psychology education in terms of skills, and think about the skills that they have had to learn over decade away from college just to survive. And now they're coming in with and they're ready and they're armed with those skills, right? So yeah, the community college system is really interesting. One of the things that you said that I can't believe it took us this long in the conversation to get to was that when we go through the tenure process, there is teaching and there is service to the college, and there is something else.
Service to the community.
Service to the community, yeah. But there is not that research piece, which can be quite a burden. I'm thinking of somebody not in psychology, but a friend of mine who is in the tenure process in Chicago, and she's going to leave over the research demands. It's, I get that there are people who love that. I also get that there are people who figure out at some point that they love teaching more than the pressure to produce and publish. And so for those people, a community college is great. We really do care about teaching. I'd say now, being on the other end of interviewing people for faculty positions at a community college, teaching's the number one thing. It's what we care about more than anything. Is that how it is at Highline as well?
Absolutely. And in fact, when we're looking to hire somebody, one of the first things I look for on their CV is if they're a member of the Society for the Teaching of Psychology. It is a simple way to communicate that you are serious about teaching, you're engaged in professional development around teaching, you want to learn how to become a better teacher, and that's exactly who I want. I don't necessarily want to hire somebody who is a fantastic teacher out of the box. It's great if we can get that, but mostly what I want is somebody who expresses an interest in learning better ways to teach.
Yeah. If somebody was applying for a job, let's do this, at a community college, what are the other things that would make them competitive? So membership in STP, what other kinds of things would they want to make sure that they are talking about or that they are getting experiences in that would make them more competitive?
Teaching experience by itself is huge. And that's unfortunately, that's one of the problems that a lot of students who are coming out of online graduate programs have, is that they don't have an opportunity to do teaching. So that's a strike against them. I think that there are some things that they could do. Adjuncting, for instance, that if you can show. So for instance, as a department coordinator, I've got responsibilities to hire part-time instructors. So if you can show me that you're a member of the Society for the Teaching of Psychology, that you are interested in attending teaching conferences, maybe you don't have the funds to actually go, but if in a letter you could say, if I had the funds available, these are the teaching of psychology conferences I would really be interested in attending. And it could be something like the National Institute on the Teaching of Psychology. It could be the APS pre-conference. It could be a regional conference where you get to focus on like WPA, where you have the Term in Teaching conference that's before the main conference. So just somebody who says, I know that these things exist. I have interest in attending these things. I don't have the financial means to do it. I'm looking for an adjunct job for Pete's sake. Mm-hmm. But if I did, these are the things I would really love to do. I'm a member of the STP Facebook page, and I love all these ideas that are coming forward there that I would love to try out in a class of my own. So even if this person doesn't have teaching experience, if they've got all of that experience, or if they have all of that knowledge about the teaching of psychology world, then I'm much more interested.
Yeah. So send that information out, folks. If you know somebody who is going to start applying for teaching jobs, the one thing that we can confidently say about community colleges is that they're teaching colleges, and that kind of, I'd say the way that you are approaching that job from a teaching perspective, just with that kind of emphasis, will be helpful. So I'm sure we missed a lot about community colleges, but that's all I got for now, Sue. So thanks for chatting community colleges with me.
We will get lots of emails from our community college colleagues telling us everything that we missed, and we will get emails from all of our four-year colleges telling us all the ways that we're wrong.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to those. Any engagement is good engagement, right? So,
yeah, there's no such thing as bad PR.